Hello, it's Anne from Veggie Magnifique, your go-to for holistic wellness and vegan lifestyle, and today we're talking about the challenges of being a digital nomad. So greetings from my parents' house where we are celebrating the holidays. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about the challenges of being a digital nomad. I think we all kind of look at digital nomading as this amazing escape / new way of living that solves problems and allows you to travel and everything's perfect and beautiful and Instagram worthy. And though it is amazing in many ways, I just wanted to make a video about some of the challenges because maybe you're considering starting a more location independent lifestyle, or maybe you've been craving actually being a digital nomad. And cool, that's great. But here are some of the things that you want to keep in mind before you start this lifestyle so that you know what you're getting into. The reason I'm making this video also is because I actually don't really like being a digital nomad. Like, I love travel and I love experiencing new cultures and I love travel, but there are certain aspects of being a digital nomad that I have personally found challenging, which is why, again, I'm making this video to share, just some of my struggles. Like, it hasn't been, just all perfect moments of me on my laptop on the beach kind of thing. So without further ado, let's get into it. Number one is feeling homeless. I would say one of the biggest challenges that I personally faced was we left our apartment in Paris. Like a dear friend of ours is getting our mail, but like there's no home in the equation, When people ask, oh, where are you from? It's like, well, that's a complicated question. Paris, sort of. I'm not originally from there and neither is Arnold, but Paris, how's that? Because obviously we gave up our apartment to travel. So that, for some, is totally fine. For my spouse, totally fine. For me, not having a home and constantly moving around made me feel kind of like foundationless and a little bit déraciné in French, which means like uprooted in a weird way. So that's one challenge. If you're totally fine with just hopping around and having like a home space isn't important to you, then just ignore this, But I've learned so much about myself over the past several months, and it turns out I'm actually a homebody. I didn't know. My friends all knew. They're like, yeah, Anne, you're a homebody, but I didn't know. So now I know. Now I've learned about myself. Secondly, on that note, number two would be packing up and moving often. The packing up and moving thing is somewhat annoying to do, which, by the way, word to the wise, if you are planning on being a digital nomad, bring half the stuff that you think. Like, I thought I was being so minimalist. I was like, yeah, I'm traveling with just one of those like a little bit large carry-ons and a backpack and plus this other random bag that, both my spouse and I put stuff in. No, it was really taxing. It was super taxing. So definitely bring much less stuff than you think. Again, depending on how you do it. If you're going to stay in one spot for a really long time each time, then the packing and repacking and unpacking and then repacking thing might not affect you, but we did visit quite a few countries. So that was not soothing to my like homebody soul, but maybe it will be fine for you. The third challenge, or rather misconception, I think, about becoming a digital nomad is that, it's budget travel. Like, if your life is on the road, then you really have to cut costs and you have to think, okay, how can I travel long term and make money, but also not, spend too much? And so it's a bit different than, say, you go on a vacation where it's like a 1 or 2 week splurge and you stay in a lovely place and you do all these fantastic things and maybe it costs more than you would usually spend. But when your life is travel, you have to be very conscious of what you're spending. So then as a result, you're staying in less nice places, kind of roughing it more or being more backpacky. And if that's your style, awesome. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. Like, I realize that I like to have hot water. That's just an important thing to me. And, I like to have a desk to work. I'm not really like a work on the bed kind of person. It's not comfortable to me. And then just like a few basics, being able to have my morning matcha and having some hot water for that. There are a couple of things that I realize are somewhat helpful to my kind of peace of mind homeostasis or whatever. But But again, you have to figure that out for yourself. So all that to say, when you're a digital nomad, it's not exactly the same, unless you're loaded, as when you're taking those, week or 2 week or even 3 week vacations where it's just, contained in there. So you might splurge a bit more. So for example, you see a lot of YouTubers or Instagram people go to Bali, right? And there's all these amazing pictures of all these fantastic like flower petal laden things. It's like, yeah, if you want to pay a couple $100 a night, you can have that. So it's just a point about, the digital nomading that is different. So you have to manage your expectations. The fourth challenge of being a digital nomad, and this is actually a challenge, I would say, is the work-life balance. So you are traveling to these amazing places, presumably, and you want to sightsee, but then at the same time, you have to make money. Otherwise, it's over. You can't travel. Unless you've been saving up a lot and you're just gonna kind of go through your savings or whatever. You have to balance your work life and your visiting life. And it's true that entrepreneurs often work so much, but we enjoy it, right? We love what we do. Otherwise, don't do it. But it just is a lot of time. So in order to create content, for example, for Veggie Magnifique, you have to do cool stuff because you want to, but then you also have to edit and work on, the back end of the site and all these kind of things. So depending on what you're doing as a digital nomad, this is going to be a challenge. You have to be very self-motivated and disciplined about time management. So a fifth challenge of being a digital nomad is those bloody bank fees. Because, oh my gosh, every time you use your foreign credit card in a foreign country, and this is, not just for digital nomads, this is for people traveling, but obviously you get bank fees. You go to the ATM, you get bank fees. So it's like, I'm looking at my statements, it's like bank fees all over the place. And I mean, it looks like it was the same for the US and the French account, because I have 2 accounts. And both of them are just like feeing up. So if you have a bank or are from a country that doesn't do that, cool, then that is not going to be an annoying thing for you. So another obvious challenge about being a digital nomad, again, depending on where you go, is not having the comforts of home. So, maybe that's fantastic peanut butter or legit soy milk. If these are things that you're used to having every single day, for example, you're just going to have to deal with it. And I think isolatedly, I think that would be fine. If you don't have good soy milk, or let's go with these examples, and you don't have good peanut butter, it's like, okay, fine, whatever. But then if you add that on top of all these other discomforts, like for example, feeling homeless, or picking up and packing up back and forth, plus you don't have those little aspects of comfort that you're used to, all these things can kind of add up and be more difficult than they ought to be on just on their own. And the last challenge I'm going to talk about today is the changing of time zones. So we chose to go from Mexico to Indonesia and then to Sri Lanka and Thailand. And so that was a lot of changing of time zones. And of course, jet lag, you get over it in a few days, but it is somewhat tricky for your immune system to be traveling all the time. Because not only are you in planes where people are sneezing and doing all sorts of things, but also, just in terms of your circadian rhythm, I would say, above all, right? It's like your body is a bit confused about where you are. So I got a couple colds over the past 4 months and I rarely get ill. So that's been super annoying. I mean, it's hard on your immune system is what it is. Even if you double up on the supplements and really prepare your body and hydrate and all those things that we do anyway, it can be a challenge. So again, maybe you want a digital nomad just in one country, but if you are planning on visiting different places, especially across the world, the long haul flights, and then we traveled for 2 days to get from Mexico to Indonesia. It was really intense. And so that kind of threw my immune system for a loop, really. So, it's just something to keep in mind. So those are some of the challenges that I have faced over the past several months. And I just wanted to share them so that people who are thinking about doing long-term digital nomading, that they have kind of some ideas of some of the things that can come up, and so that you can prepare yourself and, just kind of have a reality check about what it's like, as opposed to just looking, on the hashtag digital nomad and seeing all these fantastic glittery photos and whatnot, That being said, everyone does it differently. Everyone travels totally differently, and people are very different. Again, my spouse was totally fine with all of these things, doesn't faze him at all. But he's super chill and laid back and not a homebody and doesn't have some of the same needs, I guess, as I do. So anyway, I would love to hear from you guys. Are you a digital nomad? Would you like to be one? If you are a digital nomad, have you experienced these challenges? Or if you're looking forward to digital nomading, would love to know your thoughts as well. This is me being sort of vulnerable and saying, hey, I really wanted to be a digital nomad. Actually, not so sure, but I had to try it to like find out, right? And I'm happy to say that I had a change of heart because that's being real, right? So what's up next for us? Well, we are spending some time with my family for the holidays. We're gonna spend some time with my husband's family. And yeah, we're gonna figure out where we're gonna land, where we're gonna end up, what we're gonna do. But one thing I will say, just final note, is that travel, there's a quote about it, and it says that it's like the one expense that makes you richer, right? And it does. I've learned so much about myself and about life. So highly recommend travel. It's just sometimes a challenge. That's what it is. So thanks so much for tuning into Veggie Magnifique, and thank you guys so much for your patience as we have been traveling. So it's been somewhat of a challenge to keep up, my weekly posting. So I will see you next week on Veggie Magnifique. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the comments. Bye.